After upsetting the reigning champs in the second round, making their first Western Conference Finals since 2004, there are 4 key reasons as to why this Minnesota Timberwolves team will take the NBA by storm again next season, and the first reason is to do with an Anthony Edwards explosion. After averaging 26, 5 and 5, leading the Wolves to the 3rd seed in a stacked Western Conference, Anthony Edwards showed the NBA that he is no joke. And now being on Team USA, he's not looked out of place, as he's been the perfect spark plug coming off the bench, providing a two-way punch. In the warm-up game against Serbia, he did just that. Here off the catch, he uses a bump to create the separation needed to step back on a triple over Micic. Then in the two-man game with Anthony Davis, he's able to stop on a dime and knock down the long ball. On Team USA, every player minus LeBron James and Stephen Curry are having to just play a role. Now with Jokic in a handoff, Ant is good enough to come up with the steal, and by judging the reaction of Jokic, we all knew what was about to happen. Here he gets into the mid-range, putting his defender on his back, which allows him to create the separation needed to knock it down. But on the Timberwolves, when he's the number 1 scoring option, things look much different, as he gets a lot more isolation opportunities. Here with Franz Wagner on him, he uses a nice crossover to create a driving lane, and then he's able to control his body to finish over Carter Jr. Here with Nikola Jokic coming over to trap, he quickly moves to lose KCP, and then attacks Jokic off the dribble, beating the buzzer with a slam. Now one-on-one with Bradley Beal, he uses a nice size-up dribble to shake and then lose him, allowing him to blow on by and put Kevin Durant on a poster. Now out on a break, he gets the mismatch with Michael Porter Jr., and with a brutal hezzy, he does him dirty, leading to a throwdown. Ant loves getting downhill, but he also has a pull-up 3 in his bag, here rising over the smaller Kyrie Irving. Then here with a Rudy Gobert screen, he's able to knock down another long ball. Off pull-up 3s last season, Ant Edwards shot 32%, which isn't bad considering the difficulty of the shot. Now again with the Rudy screen, he gets plenty of space due to Gafford being so low, as he walks into another triple. Here with only 3.8 seconds to get coast to coast, Anthony Edwards does just that, pulling up on a triple and knocking it down. Now with KD guarding him, he uses a hezzy to first lose him, and then he almost uses Eubanks like a screen, making Durant have to go around him, which gives Ant too much time to knock down this trip. From the outside, he's evolved into an above-average shooter, but it's still his inside scoring that makes him so dangerous, as here matched up with Anthony Davis, he completely cooks him, getting to the mid-range where he can knock it down. Here, Ant uses a tough crossover to completely lose Duarte, which gives him a driving lane where he finishes around Sabonis for 2. Now with Quentin Grimes, he does the same thing, losing him with the crossover, and then he gets the scoop to go over Robinson. Then in the mid-range with a big, he's able to use his handle to create enough space for the jumper. Now with Aaron Gordon as the matchup, he's able to go to work, even pointing in the middle of cooking him, getting a wide open layup. Here with a solid defender and Bruce Brown on him, he's able to use his handle to get the opening, this time knocking down the long ball. Don't let AE get a mismatch either, as here he cooks Chad Holmgren, getting to this wild fall-away shot. But it was in the postseason where Anthony Edwards really stepped it up, averaging 27, 7 and 6, with 1.5 steals on an effective 48% shooting. If Anthony Edwards continues to work on his jumper and shot selection, I genuinely believe that the sky's the limit for not only him, but the Minnesota Timberwolves also. The second reason why the Minnesota Timberwolves will be a much better team next season is because of a consistent Karl Anthony Towns. From being drafted 1st overall and winning the Rookie of the Year, averaging over 20 points per game, Cat was the first option for quite some time. However, last season was his first time not being the number 1 option, as he gave it up to Anthony Edwards, and for good reason, as Ant is entering the prime of his career. However, Cat is still great when playing well, but that's just it. Cat often isn't at his best when the lights are the brightest, and this shows when you look at his regular season versus playoff averages. In the regular season, Cat put up 21.8 points, 8.3 rebounds on a good 50% shooting, and 41% on 3-point shots. These numbers are incredibly solid and were good enough to get him voted as an all-star. However, in the postseason, his numbers were far from that, averaging less points, rebounds, and assists while shooting a worse percentage from both 3 and the field overall. And this isn't a one-off thing either, as if you go back to every season Karl Anthony Towns has ever made the playoffs, his points per game have decreased every single time, and even in most of these seasons, his rebounds have gone down too, which is just unacceptable for a big man. There's no doubt that he's the game's best big man jump shooter, however, it's the little things that Karl Anthony Towns will need to work on if the Timberwolves are going to be able to contend for a title. However, he's got a good base to build off of, as his offensive game is one that very few can replicate. Here using a head fake and a burst of speed to get an open dunk. Then out on top, he gets to a step back 3 as a big man and knocks it down. Shots like this are not supposed to happen from your center or power forward, but this is what Cat gives you. Here he's out on top again, but this time he uses some nice guard-like handles to get all the way to the basket for a poster. Now matched up with the smaller Russell Westbrook, Russ simply has no chance to stop him, as Cat dribbles the ball over and around him, getting a wide open dunk. Now with a bigger Ivica Zubac matched out one-on-one on the perimeter, Cat treats it like a mismatch, easily getting the separation to knock down the triple. And then here he does it again, this time matched up with Steven Adams as he pulls the corner triple and knocks it down. Here matched up on his now teammate Rudy Gobert, he pulls the three in transition and rips the cords. Opposing defenses can't consistently get away with having a bigger defender on Cat, as he'll just take you to the perimeter, but you're also not able to put a smaller defender on him because he'll punish you inside, making him a nightmare matchup if he's playing well. If this Karl Anthony Towns, along with the Anthony Edwards that we saw last postseason, both show up at the same time for Minnesota in a playoff series, I'd pick them against anybody. However, we're still yet to see this confident and assertive version of Cat in the postseason. The third reason as to why the Minnesota Timberwolves will be title contenders yet again next season is because of their elite defense. Last season, the Timberwolves had the best defense during the regular season, holding teams to 108 points per game. Having the defensive player of the year on your team definitely helps, but the reason why the Timberwolves have the best defense in the league is because of guys like Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and even Anthony Edwards. Their defense reached its apex in the first round series against the Suns, and this short stint in Game 2 was incredible. First, you're going to see Ant pick up Bradley Beal on the backcourt, hounding him to the point where he's barely able to get the ball across the line. Then only moments later, it's Alexander-Walker who's all over Booker in the backcourt. And here, Devin wasn't even able to pass the ball, leading to a Suns turnover. Then it's Kevin Durant dribbling the ball outside, and Naz Reid is able to knock it away, as it got to the point where all the pressure got into the Suns players' heads, as here Bradley Beal isn't able to blow by Rudy on a switch, as he kicks it out to Booker, who's instantly being hounded again. Then when Bradley Beal comes up to get Booker switched on to Rudy, Book just throws it away instead of attacking the mismatch. With no real defensive liabilities out on the floor, the Wolves are able to hound their opponents and force them into bad turnovers or poor decision making. But of course that defense is centered around the four-time defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert, and it's not hard to see why with sequences like this. First, he closes out to Chet, running him off the line, but he still manages to stay in the play, forcing a miss. However, the Thunder are able to get the offensive rebound and find Chet again. It's no problem for Rudy, who's able to make the closeout to Holmgren, forcing him to put the ball on the floor again. And really watch this, as Chet has absolutely nothing as he's forced to give it up. Then with great defense from Alexander-Walker, the Thunder are forced to give it right back to Chet, who this time will just shoot it, and he doesn't even graze the rim. Here with Gobert switched off of Wendell Carter, the Magic use a pick and roll to get him rolling toward the basket. However, Rudy's still able to come over and swat it away. Now the defense of McDaniels forces Murray to make an awkward pass to Jokic, who gets his 1-foot runner rejected by Gobert. Defense to offense is how this Timberwolves team operates, as here Green's pass to Şengün is ripped away, leading to a fast break jam from Rudy. Now with Santi Aldama, he almost lets him get in front just so he can come up with the spike. His defense is absolutely crucial to what this Minnesota team does, both on offense and defense, as their defense will be a huge reason as to why this team will succeed next season. The fourth reason why the Minnesota Timberwolves will be title contenders once again next season is because of the bench production from Naz Reid. Last season, Naz Reid won the 6th Man of the Year, averaging 13.5 points, 5.2 rebounds on 47% shooting from the field and over 40% from deep. Throughout the regular season, he was great to have off the bench, allowing the Wolves to coast some games and rest guys due to his offense, but also because the Timberwolves offense wasn't great in the first place, as having an offensive spark to come off the bench really helped them. This was especially the case in the series against Denver, as down the stretch of both Game 1 and 7, he was huge. In Game 1, Naz Reid was everywhere, as after starting the game slow, here he runs the floor for the slam. His defense on Jokic was spectacular, first holding his ground, making Jokic have to repost, and then he's able to come up with the steal. Then back on offense, he gets the mismatch with Justin Holiday and takes him to the basket for 2. Now playing off Anthony Edwards, he gets the pass from him and knocks down the triple. Here in transition, Ant pulls up for 3 and misses. But fortunately for the Wolves, Naz Reid comes parachuting in for the putback jam. Naz absolutely took over toward the end of Game 1, as here he beats Aaron Gordon off the bounce, contorting his body to finish at the rim. Here with a Conley-Gobert screen and roll, Jamal Murray gets caught gambling, allowing Conley to drive right by, drawing Gordon, which leaves an open Naz Reid for another triple. Then in the pivotal Game 7 on the road, down 20 to the Nuggets, the Wolves stood up, as Naz Reid was again huge down the stretch of this game. Here out on the run, Conley hits Rudy, who's able to get it to Naz down low, who uses his strength to do the rest. Now with Ant trapped in the corner, he hits the open Naz Reid, who's good enough to beat Murray off the bounce and then get to the cup for 2. Just like he did in Game 1, off an Edwards miss, he comes flying in for another putback slam. Then to put the game away, Mike Conley gets the steal on Jamal Murray, who then finds Naz Reid open, who draws in the defense and finds Anthony Edwards wide open in the corner to seal Game 7. With Naz Reid making these crucial plays down the stretches of games, filling in for Karl Anthony Towns whenever he got into foul trouble, the Minnesota Timberwolves have a real chance to be a title contender if the other three reasons hold up. Let me know in the comments below, do you think this Minnesota Timberwolves team has earned the right to be the favorites coming into next season?